Okay, why did it do it twice? Welcome to Heartland Darkland. I'm Shannon. Do I need to
And
redo that?
and I'm Cassie. Hey,
Okay.
Darkhearts. Whatever. I
You
think
know
by
what?
now, I mean,
It's
if
fine.
if it's a new listener, sorry, this is what we're at, and we've already dealt with a bunch of BS before we even started this. So
Correct. So
that's
you
our
get what you get.
intro. You
Yep.
know,
There it is. 2025. Here we go.
starting
Yep.
out strong.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Starting off real strong. So far, not impressed with 2025, but we're only 14 days in, so I'm hopeful. I'm just gonna restart the year in February. I decided because it's just been a lot. So yeah,
Yeah. And listen, we are starting strong. For us personally, it
yeah,
was
fair.
our site that we record on that was having issues, not
Yeah.
us.
For
So
once, it wasn't us, which we even
yeah,
said that. We're like, of course this happens when we finally have our shit together,
I
you know?
know
But it's
we've
fine.
got a great game plan for the year and
Yeah.
the reward system set up, so we stay
Yeah.
on task because we are children who
I
need
was
that.
just gonna say we are children and we need all the things. So
Yes.
yeah, that's where we're at. And but yay, we're back, I guess. Welcome back to or welcome to the new year, I guess. It's
Yeah.
new year, new crimes, new bodies, no, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. But
Listen,
yeah.
we're here, okay? It's a new
Yeah.
year and we are here.
Yes, and that deserves a round of applause.
Yes,
So,
it does.
yeah. I mean, this episode today too, I feel like it's kind of more of like a mini episode because there was not a lot of information. So, it's not even going to be that long today. But it's still a kind of a juicy one.
I mean, ease back into it all and
Yeah,
stuff, you know,
it's fine. I
that's
listened
how it
to
is.
a podcast earlier today and it was like 16 minutes and I was like, "Oh." But you know what? That was like perfect. I was like, I listened to it while I got ready real quick and stuff and I was like, sometimes you just like a nice short episode. So that's what you're getting today from us.
Yeah, there you
No
go.
promises on length, but I do ramble a lot. So, and I, who knows, this could
I
somehow
mean, and
turn
then we
into a
have,
saga.
I've got to insert my 2 cents, you
Yeah,
know.
so it's gonna be just fine. But yeah, I mean, is there anything you would like to add?
Listen, I don't even know. The holidays took it out of me. Unfortunately, as you know, we had to put our oldest dog down this weekend. I've been planning the kids' birthday parties because their birthdays are so soon after the holidays. Like, I don't even know what day it is half the time. So yeah, I've got nothing for the top here. I don't
Yeah,
even know anymore.
I know. That's where I'm at with life. And I'm like, I think everyone can kind of relate right now. I think it's just like, just a lot. So, and
It
it's always just
is.
hard starting out like the new year and, trying to get your shit back together and just right into the next thing and no
Right.
breaks, really. So, yeah.
No, yeah, it's like the kids had winter break and then like they were both at school for a week and then Monday my son stayed home with a stomach ache and now today my daughter's home with a stomach ache and I'm hoping she can go to school tomorrow so I can go back into work. It's just it's all over
Yeah.
the place.
It's a very Monday, Tuesday-ish,
It
very
is.
vibey Monday, but yeah.
So yeah, I
So,
think you can kind of dive right in today.
all right, we're gonna go to Huron. Is it Huron, South Dakota? I'm pretty sure that's how you say it.
Is it
Huron.
Huron or Heron?
Well, the couple places I listened to said Huron, but I don't know if that's correct. It's spelled Huron.
Oh,
So
I guess I
unless
would call it Huron.
I don't know, I was going with Huron. So
I say do
you know
it.
what? I'm probably only gonna say it this one time anyway.
That's
So that's where we're at today, friends. So so Friday, January 26th of 2007.
okay.
Yeah, so not too long ago, but which is really weird that there's not more information, but we can talk about why I think that is later on because I feel like that's always the situation. But I think part of that on our podcast is because it's the Midwest, and I think that's part of the reason the information is lacking. But
I think that is a big part of why so many cases that we try to cover have that, and also because we don't have the money to put into like doing like paying for research stuff for like
yeah,
deeper stuff. But yeah.
yeah. So this was 2007, and at 5:48 a.m. that morning, a call came in to 911. It was a young female, and she was calling requesting help immediately because there was multiple people being attacked in her house by her brother.
Oh.
Um, So 4 police officers responded to this. It was Captain Daniel Murotek, Sergeant Daniel Schlatter, Officer Daniel Kite, and Officer Scott Stiegelmeyer. Okay. I only mention names because that'll kind of come in later a little bit to this. But so Captain Murotek, he was the first to arrive on the scene. Followed right behind was Officer Knight and Officer Steigelmeyer. So there was 3 of them right away. So
Okay.
they arrive at about 5:52. And they show up to the home of John and Betty Gilchrist. So John and Betty had 2 children who also lived at home with them, Joshua, who was 15, and Rebecca, who was 14. They also had a foreign exchange student that was staying with them, and his name was Danil Anatov. Antonov is what. Sorry, Danil, if you're listening. So Rebecca answers the door. She's covered in blood, basically from like head to toe. Naturally, she's like hysterical, screaming, bawling. She said her brother was trying to kill her mom, and her dad was not home at the time, which I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. It's like 5 in the morning, but maybe he worked nights.
Yeah,
Obviously, it has
third
really
shift
no
or something.
it was obviously a very normal thing because that doesn't come into play at all later. Like if he was just not there. So,
Okay.
so she was heavily bleeding mostly from like her hands, but it's going to pour all over if you have your
Yeah.
hands down and you're running. So as this is all kind of conspiring, they hear screaming. And then they see a male running from the hallway towards the front door. This was Joshua Gilchrist, and he was carrying a sword above his shoulders, like running with this giant ass sword. So this sword, it was described to have a 24-inch sharp pointed blade, a sharpened edge, and a handle of about 7 inches. So overall, this thing was almost 3 feet long.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He runs out the front door towards Officer Kite, who was standing like in the doorway. He tries to attack him immediately. He's swinging this sword and he's swinging it in a downward motion, which, I mean, yeah, you think about holding this huge ass sword, and it's not like you can just stab someone with it, really, if it's that big and it's like a curved sword.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's curved. So, like, but anyway, I mean, he's going at it and he's getting him, like, striking him multiple times in his left arm and his shoulder.
Oh.
Yeah. So while this is all happening, obviously he's trying to fight him off, and they're kind of in this.
I'm surprised he didn't shoot. Like, I understand that this is a child.
Well,
'Cause
we
you said
will.
he's 15, right?
Yeah, because it happened very, very, very quickly, and
Okay.
so. Yeah. So he's getting attacked. He's trying to back up away from this kid, fight him off. He steps backwards, pulls his gun out, and fires. So yes, he does shoot.
Okay. I was gonna say, I was like, this feels like a moment where
it's okay to do that. Probably.
Well, but even then, I mean, like, seemed like something. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, it does seem like
gonna...
something they would be. Wouldn't you already have like your guns drawn, almost like
if
to put it down?
Yeah.
Like,
well,
yeah.
And if you were told that someone was attacking
correct
family members, and you see this young girl in blood, yeah, how is your?
Yeah,
I mean,
it was just kind of weird. Anyway, I mean, but he fires it once and falls backwards from the jolt of it because he's like on the stairs anyway. So he falls. And then Stiegelmeyer tries to stop Josh by using a taser on him. So he gets his taser out, and interestingly enough, the taser has like 2 prongs, right?
Yeah.
So one connected to him, and then one connected to like the other officer's coat. So it didn't work because I kind of had a look because I was like, well, wouldn't it still work? But the electricity has to be current. Yeah, like the same current. Like, okay. I don't know. So anyway, it did not work, I guess, is where we're going there with that, which is odd. So then they're really like, well, shit. So then Sergeant Schlatter, I think that's how you say it, but he fires his weapon at Josh 4 times.
Jesus.
As he's attacking him. So he ends up being struck 3 times. 3 of those, well, 2 of those shots, and then struck from the first shot from that other officer who shot at him. We'll talk about the details on that more
But
too.
I'm
But
sorry, this officer shot 4 times and only hit this kid twice?
yeah, and I don't know, like, how close he was to him, but, like, I'm picturing this very close. They're all kinda gathered by the front door,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And when you
Um,
have that many other people around, like, that
I know.
seems like not great shooting.
I
It
agree.
seems like these officers maybe needed more training with their weapons.
Yeah, it was yeah, especially with the taser thing too. I was like but I'm like, "Okay, maybe in this tiny ass town, and they're like,
I was gonna
we
say, I was
don't
like, "Is
ever
this a
deal with
small
this."
town?
I mean, I'm
Right?
anything in South Dakota is kinda
Fair.
small, I'm gonna
I
guess.
mean,
I
is
should have
there a
probably looked
large
at
town?
population, but,
Right, but
like,
still.
Sioux Falls is, like, the biggest city that I
Yeah,
know of there, and that's not even, like, huge, you know what I mean?
right?
But, um, so, yeah. So, after 2 of those shots strike him from that officer, Josh falls and he rolls over onto the ground, but he proceeds to grab the sword and get back up to try to
Is
go
he on
back after them.
drugs?
No,
Or, like, a
he's
mental
not
break?
either. Well, we can talk about that more because they don't talk about a lot of it, but he was
Okay.
not on drugs or any of that.
'Cause
So,
you know how, like, sometimes when someone's on, like, meth or something
oh god, yeah,
major,
their
it's like
adrenaline
yeah.
is like hardcore. Oh yeah. So he gets up, tries to come back, and then they use the taser on him, and it is successful that time, just FYI. So
Okay.
10th time's a charm or something in this
Yeah.
situation. So then by 5:58, the EMTs, ambulance, all those people had arrived on scene. So it was really only what time did I say? 5:48 was when the first call came in. So it was all of this transpired within like 10 minutes of the call
Wow.
even coming in. Um,
If the
so
cops got there that quick, then it has to be a small town.
yeah, I'm assuming so. And at 5:58 in the morning too, it's probably like, they don't have a lot going on. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
but,
know.
like, even in Omaha, I would not trust the cops to get here that
No.
quickly if I were to call
Oh,
at
hell
5:58
no.
in the morning.
I'm like real close to the the police station too, and I don't think I would even trust. Well, we had a lot of drama this summer with neighbors and police. So
That's
and
fair.
honestly, some of them did show up pretty quick. So I'm not gonna. But it also depends on time of day and all the. And
Yeah.
this was January, so it's cold as shit in South Dakota in January too. You know, so
Right.
like I don't know. Not that that necessarily has anything to do with it, but like maybe there wasn't a lot going on. Um, so that's the crime itself. So then they do, obviously a little run through of the crime scene kind of. And Rebecca has several wounds to her hands and mostly her thumbs. They notice there's just blood like all over the house, probably from multiple trails. If, there's several people being attacked in the home. They did find a shotgun in one of the bedrooms, and it was covered in a lot of blood. It wasn't loaded, but there were live rounds that were attached to like the ammo belt next to the gun. So they thought that was kind of odd. Um, in Josh's room, which was in the basement, they found several different knives and swords and also a machete. It looked like he was a collector of swords. So that explains where the other one came from. Also, downstairs under the stairwell was where Betty Gilchrist was located with a lot of blood surrounding her. Um, Danil, the foreign exchange student who was there at the time, which we'll go through like exactly kind of what happened, but this is just kind of the run through of the aftermath. Danil was next door at the neighbor's house. So he was able to get away, but he also did have several wounds to his hands and
Okay.
his chest. It sounded like he got struck in his chest.
Oh, geez.
So they're able to talk to Rebecca after all this. She said that she had woken up early that morning because she had heard Joshua standing outside her parents' room just screaming and yelling like really loud because her room and her parents' room was on the second floor of the house. So she gets up, she goes to see what's going on, and she sees Joshua chasing their mom like downstairs with this sword. And then he proceeds to stab her. He stabbed her in the chest, both sides of her chest, in her neck. Um, and as soon as Rebecca sees this, it's like kind of hero mode, but also like, girl, what are you doing? She jumps on top of him, like on his back, and tries to stop him.
Jesus.
and she's trying to grab the sword from him, which is what resulted in her hands getting cut because she's grabbing the blade of it.
Oh
Like,
my god.
girl, I know. I guess in the heat of the moment, you're probably just like desperate to
I would
do
say with
whatever.
adrenaline, the heat of the moment,
Yeah.
it's not like it's a stranger to it's your brother
No
who, I mean,
shit.
I don't know what stuff has been like, but there's probably like if this was like some sort of weird mental break that was out of the norm for him, you're
Right.
probably like, what the hell? Like a kind
Yeah.
of
Oh,
disbelief of
totally.
this isn't real
Yeah. Like,
thing.
what's even happening right now? Um, Then, so when this is happening, this is when Danil, whose room was also downstairs, by Josh's, he hears the commotion going on. He comes to check what's going on. He sees it all going down. He runs, he shoves Josh off of Rebecca. He grabs Rebecca and he runs upstairs. So, I mean, we got a lot of like people in here, like heroic actions
Yeah.
happening, trying to stop it, but
Can you
um
imagine too, like, I don't know where he was from, but you can't imagine that you're coming from another country and you're like, I'm gonna be in South Dakota. Nothing is gonna happen to me here.
I
Which
know. I literally
FYI,
thought that too.
I did Google. As of
Yeah.
2020, Huron, however it is, was only 14,000, but in 2007 there was only 11,000 people. It was only
Eh,
a population of 11,000, so it's a small town.
yeah, that's pretty small. It's bigger than my hometown, which is
I mean,
I mean,
it's
my hometown is small, but like not tiny, tiny. So like
oh, mine's
I have no
tiny,
idea.
tiny.
Mine's
I
like
think
about 7,000. So like,
mine's
yeah.
maybe 3. I don't even know
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I mean, it's small, and this kid's probably like, "What the hell did I get myself into here?"
Right.
I'm in South Dakota, where there's nothing happening ever. His parents probably thought like, "Oh, this is a safe place to send him. Let's do that."
Yep.
So yeah, he grabs Rebecca, runs upstairs. Of course, Josh follows them. So they try to run to the garage to get out that way. And this is kind of when they get separated, when Rebecca and Danil get separated. So Josh follows Danil out into the garage, strikes him in the chest with the sword. I don't know how deep this wound is, especially with like a sword, because I mean, the stabbing motion, like, I don't know, you'd have to be at a very specific angle to be, because it's such a long blade at an angle. So I don't really know the extent of that there yet, but
I mean, it depends on if it's a single-sided sharpened blade or like blade or a double-sided sharpened sword, because
yeah, it's whatever I said it was at the beginning, which
I
I
don't
don't
remember
remember the
now.
details of that. But all I know is that it was like well, yeah, they'll talk about it a little bit more later, but like, yeah, I know it's just like a very curved, so the angle of it would make it difficult, I guess
Yeah.
is where we're going at. So, he strikes him in the chest. Uh, they kind of wrestle around for a while fighting. At some point, I don't really know, Danil like tries to open the garage and then Josh like tries to shut it. So it's like halfway down and Danil like totally Tom Cruises it and just like rolls under it before it closes. So Hollywood, here he comes, stuntman, something.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he gets out right before it like closes. So that's when he escapes to the neighbor's house. Um, and so while Danil and Josh were in the garage having this little escapade here, that made it sound sexual. Not that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all know.
They're fighting.
So
As
yeah,
they
like
were
yeah, weird
fighting.
choice of words, Shannon, but okay. So Rebecca had gone into this bedroom where that shotgun was, and she was trying to load the shotgun. That's why it was covered in blood, because she was covered in blood. Her hands were so badly injured, she wasn't even able to load the gun and I'm like, I'm impressed. 14-year-old girl knows how to load a shotgun, but in South
I
Dakota
mean, South
too.
Dakota, smaller
Yeah.
town.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. So she couldn't do it. So then she calls 911, which I'm like, why don't you call 911 first? But whatever. I mean, probably in the moment, like, holy shit,
Yeah.
I need to protect myself in the meantime. So calls 911 at that point. So that's when that kind of took over there. So both Rebecca and Danil received medical care and were released. So they were okay. Um, I don't know how severe either of their wounds were. I think they were in the hospital for a bit, though, it sounded like from what I read, but it didn't really go into detail on them since they
I
were
mean,
okay.
depending on how deep the cuts on her hands were, she might have needed surgery to like fix tendons and
Oh,
stuff.
I know. So gross to even think about. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is like a tender area. Like a paper cut? Damn, I can't even hang with a paper cut. So some sword like that, no thanks.
Yeah.
Of course, the officers were also treated medically. Thankfully, the one officer that had been attacked initially outside, who had the first shot, he was wearing, because it was South Dakota, a big, heavy winter coat because it was so cold. So that actually kind of protected him, and he actually did not have like severe
Oh, good.
Yeah, cuts from that. So that was kind of good. Of course, they were all put on administrative leave because,
They fired weapons and
they have to, which is
mhm.
normal. Unfortunately, Betty did not survive the attack by Josh. So she had been stabbed in her chest and it punctured both of her lungs. She was also stabbed in her neck, and that was an instant. He got the carotid artery
Oh,
as well as her shoulders and arms. Um, she had a ton of defensive wounds on her hands and arms, and post mortem, they said they were able to find tons of wounds on like her face and chest. So probably just from being thrown around and
yeah.
whatnot. Unfortunately, there was not a lot of information at all on Betty, which I think is really sad. The only thing I could really find was that she had been a former teacher at a high school in Minnesota. But at the time of her death, she was the children's librarian at the Huron Public Library.
Oh,
I know. Um, Betty and her husband John, they were both involved in the Huron band, probably like a booster club type thing.
right.
Because I guess both Josh and Rebecca were members in the band and orchestra, so they were really involved in that. Um, Josh was also killed by the police, and I think that's why this case is focused on him because,
Mm,
that's always a weird, like, very questionable thing when police
right.
kill someone. But
Especially a 15-year-old.
right. So Um, after a thorough investigation, it was determined that the police had acted appropriately and that it was self-defense. Um, and even after being shot and attempting to get back up and swing the sword, that they thought it was necessary to have shot again. So that's like really all the information on it because it was so heavily focused on was this an approved, like, shooting from the
Oh,
officers.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it didn't really even focus on the crime. I looked high and low. They never were able to fully find a motive for this because he was gone.
Yeah.
They said he had a MySpace page, which everyone at that time did, but they
I
said
mean,
that
yeah.
there was, like, maybe one post that was kind of weird of his, but nothing alarming. The only thing they said that really struck them that could have been an issue was just that he was a collector of swords.
Yeah,
But,
but
like
that's not weird.
right.
Like,
So,
not on its own.
no. So there was real no motive, and I feel like it's really sad because Betty doesn't really get a lot of, attention in this when she's the victim too. I mean,
Right.
because it really took over the fact that, like, a 15-year-old shot by police, which it's like, well, there's more to it, but
Yeah.
yeah. So that's a pretty wild case because something had to have spawned this kid to just snap.
I'm
Like,
just right. Like, is this a snap situation? Like, no signs whatsoever. But even then,
yeah,
like, there's always some sort of signs. But that's what makes me think, like, was there mental illness prior to this?
right.
Like, were there anger issues that he had prior to this?
Yeah, and that's the thing that was weird too because that's when I was, like, telling you, I was like, "I'm trying to find some more information," because I
Yeah.
thought there had to be more on that. There was, like, nothing. His dad said, like, there was no signs. His sister said, like, no signs either. They all said they had no idea what the motivation was behind it, which, okay, unless maybe it's just case closed type thing because he is
Yeah.
dead anyway. But
Yeah.
still, I think it's so sad. And you would think there would be some signs like, oh, he was a troubled kid or
Yeah.
yeah, no. I did see like a couple pictures of him. Well, he looked total normal kid, but then I did see one that was kind of like, I don't know, just being a 15-year-old boy, maybe. I don't know. It just looked a little bit more alarming. Like as a parent, I would say like, okay, going from this picture to this picture, like something clearly has changed in him. But how do you really know? And
Yeah.
in 2007, like, mental health was recognized, but not
Not
nearly
really.
even
No.
yeah, it was a little, but I think it was finally starting to kind of get maybe a little better. But I think I'm like, now my space time, I think about where I was at that point in my life, and I'm like, no, probably not enough
No,
that
it
he got,
wasn't.
well,
I'd have been out of high school for a year, so nah, mental health was not. I mean,
I was getting treated for anxiety and stuff at that age, and so
yeah.
I think it just depends. I think it's just not as
I don't
it
think
wasn't as
it wasn't as
openly
right. Like I don't
recognized.
think it's really been until the last like 5 to 10 years that people are more open about talking to about their mental health.
Right.
So like I think people were getting treated for like depression and anxiety then,
Yeah.
but it was still kind of a you don't talk about that. And then if someone
Taboo. Yep.
said that they were, then it was like, oh, you know what
What's
I
wrong with
mean?
you? Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what's sad. And so it kind of also makes me wonder if because both mom and son had been dead, if like dad was like, we're not going to talk
I
about
know. That's what I
our,
thought.
we're not going to air our dirty laundry to the public and we're just going to say, you know what I mean? Which
Which,
is fair and
yeah.
valid, because really, if you
What's,
have an idea,
yes.
especially if there's like some sort of guilt of like, oh, there were these signs.
Right. And as long as, yeah, they have the closure they need from it, knowing
Yeah.
that, like, they don't really need to answer to anyone. I mean, as far as that. And the
Right.
people who are involved got the answers that they needed, you know? And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure the police, like, how awful to even have done that anyway. I mean, obviously in this case, it sounds like it was totally like necessary,
I know,
but
but
it
this
still
is
would be
where
hard
I
because it's a
think police
kid
still need
too.
better training
Oh,
on
yeah.
shooting to disarm, but like, incapacitate and not
Yeah.
kill. Cause like if we had aimed for a shoulder or a leg or something,
Right.
like I know that he still got up even after being shot several times,
Hmm.
but like you have adrenaline and stuff at that
Right.
point, and who
And
knows
at
what was
that
going
point,
on.
yeah, he
But
probably knew
like,
he was gonna die from being shot, and it was like one
yeah.
final, like, "Let's go," but
I
yeah.
don't know. To me, it just sounds so much like a mental illness thing
Yeah.
for him to not only attack his mom, but then to charge at and attack police
Yeah.
too.
Totally.
That sounds, I don't know. That's a heartbreaking case all around
I
because it's like
know.
there's a 15-year-old child who knows what was happening. Like, yes, he killed his mother,
Right.
like, but we don't know, details there of like
The
was there mental
relationship
illness
between
that
them
and
and
all these
yeah.
things that
Yep.
and then yeah, that's a tough one. And then
I know, and
to
it's crazy
lose
because if you, like, look up the story, all you're gonna find is, like, police kill or, 15-year-old
yeah.
killed by police. It's like, "Wait, what?" Like, yeah, I mean, I get that that is part of it, but, like, what about Betty? Like, there's a
Yeah.
lot more to this story,
Yeah.
and that's, like, the focus, like, primarily, so
Well, and and this is where, yet again, my fear of being murdered by a child is not
I was like
unreasonable.
I was thinking about that, I was like, child killers,
Mhm.
and the fact that it was the son, I literally well, I was gonna say something about that in the beginning, like, this is Cassie's biggest fear,
Listen, my son's
but,
not the one who's gonna do it. It would
yeah,
be
it's
my
gonna be your
daughter.
watch out. Watch out, world.
Yes.
That she's a feisty one. But
Yes.
yeah, I mean, it happened. So that's why I'm like, I mean, I hope not that like I hope he was like, mentally ill or abused or any of that, but like I hope there was something that at least explained maybe why
Yeah, I guess
he
for his
did that.
family's sake, like to not only
Right.
lose like your mom and brother, your wife and your son at the same time, like I hope that they have some sort of
Yeah.
closure at least. I mean, not like there's any good way, but I don't know. I guess for me, if
Yeah.
I had a sibling who did that, like the not knowing would be like what,
I agree. That
caused
would be
this, I
real
think would
tough.
be really difficult. Like why did this happen?
Right.
And not that necessarily a reason makes it better, but I don't
I
know.
mean, at least having that just to know, like, for your
Like
own peace of mind. I think the
yeah, like
not
maybe it can
knowing
help
part is the
you.
hardest,
Like if it was a mental illness thing, like, yeah, I can see where there were these signs and this wasn't a thing of it, like I don't know,
He
like he
wasn't
wasn't just evil or something, you
yes,
know what I mean? Like
totally. Yep. Yep. Because it's like something I think even, like murder victims' families, like even when you know the details, like sometimes you don't want to, but it's like, okay, it's just good for your own closure because then you can kind of put it to rest all those
yeah.
what ifs and
Mhm.
all the things. So yeah, that's the case. And it's like I said, I don't have a whole lot more. I mean, it's pretty cut and dry as far as like the crime itself goes.
Yeah.
But the leading up to it and all of that, no idea. Because usually those kind of cases you hear like they were troubled in school, they
Right.
this and
Yeah,
that,
that's
but
just
there was
it.
none of that. I mean, other than him being involved in the band is like the only thing really even
Mentioned.
recognized about him as a person as well.
Then that
So
makes me think that he wasn't troubled in the way,
I
because
know.
that's just it. Like normally, like yes, you'd have all this, but then they would have put forth then in all of that, like, it's like, oh, the teen was troubled and the police had no, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times, especially when it's a police-involved
Yeah.
shooting, they try to make it out to be like the victim is some, like, terrible
Horrible.
person
Yeah, exactly. Just to kind
to
of make it,
justify it
yeah, make them feel
somehow,
better
and
about
it's
it.
like, but, that's a whole other thing. But,
Yeah,
so, like, it is weird that there's nothing like that that
I know.
makes it seem
I know. That's what I think is odd too, because yeah, like they don't say anything about, I mean, did he have any prior run-ins with the law? Like, was
yeah.
he just kind of a bad
I
seed? I
feel like
mean,
that's are
yeah,
all things that would have been brought up, which is what, again, leads me to being like, this had to have been some sort of, like, mental break.
I know. Totally. Because yeah, it's real bizarre. And I kept thinking I would find somewhere, even like, years later, this came out that, he
Yeah.
struggled with this. Nothing. So that's in South Dakota too. And I'm like, that's a pretty wild case. The fact, first of all, that the police, you know, shot someone, like that that's a big deal. But then it sucks because
Right.
like the rest of it you don't hear about. But like I can't believe, which maybe I guess in 2007, I mean news was different then too. But I
That's
can't believe
true.
I never had heard of that one. So yep,
Yeah. Well,
that's that. Oh,
oh, dogs got all excited about something there. That's fun. But
yep,
yeah.
sorry.
No, you're good. Um, but yeah, I did look up my hometown's population as of 2023 was 2,211.
Oh, that's little.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I know I passed it when I was going back to visit my parents over the holidays and told my daughter, I was like, "Yeah, this is where Cassie's from." She's
Mhm.
like, "Out here?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Yeah, it's still a lot closer than our drive." I was like, "I'd rather drive this far, but that's still far." I was like, "Ugh, no
Yeah.
thanks."
Yeah. Nope. Yep. That's yeah. But yeah, I mean, you guys, I'm not gonna lie. This episode and the next episode are probably gonna like we're not gonna have a whole lot of chit chat because we're recording two episodes in the same day to try to help
Yeah.
us be ahead so we don't have a bunch of unexpected breaks like we did at the end of the year. This is our plan. Is I'm pretty sure we said this last year at one point. It's like we're gonna be ahead. This is why we had to put forth a reward system for ourselves. So we have plans, so hopefully when life happens, we will have episodes ready to go already.
That's the goal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see. We'll see how that all pans out. But you guys, a reminder. You can follow us on all the things. They're all linked in the show note. We've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got TikTok maybe for however long that
For a
maybe
few
lasts.
days or a week or yeah.
Whatever happens, we'll see. YouTube. And, you can email us if you have questions or concerns or more information. Because again, we do the best we can. We
Uh-huh.
don't always find all the information, but if you have legit information that you can verify or, we can always be like, hey, this person told us this, we don't know I'm not going to,
Right.
you know, like we're always
Right.
happy to hear that, but there's only so much we can find sometimes. So,
Right. And if we're missing a lot of information, then let us know what information we're missing. Yeah. And if it's not just hearsay or whatever, because we
yeah,
literally use what's available to the public. So
yes.
we're not going to start putting out other people's opinions and getting it ugly. The only
Right.
opinions needed are ours, and nobody cares about ours except us. So,
So there we are. So, you guys,
yay. Yeah.
until next time, stay heartily and kind.
But dark land wary.